All right, guys, welcome back. Another week of gaming news to go over, starting with the show today. We have the Xbox ROG Ally X to talk about how it's running a big game here. It looks like it's going to bode well for those big AAA games in terms of the performance you're going to get from them, which is something that I think people are expecting here, especially with the Ally X. The Lenovo Legion Go 2, we got the release date, we got the specs, and then obviously the major talking point right now for this thing is going to be the pricing. These things are expensive. You'll see why once we do go over it, just because of what they are offering, but it is really reaching to the premium market here when it comes to gaming PC handhelds. We have some information about Starfield. Looks like they're going to be teasing, they've teased some new content coming to the game. Machine Games is working on a new Wolfenstein, which is a great thing. Ubisoft talks about the Nintendo Switch game cards, whether or not really feasible for their games. And I've been playing Star Wars Outlaws 2 on my Switch 2, and you can see why the game cards won't be feasible with games like that. So we have that, plus a couple of other things to go over. But if you do enjoy this type of content, 8 a.m. every single day, keeping you up to date on the world of gaming, I would appreciate it if you did hit that subscribe button. But for now, let's get into it. Next month is a big month when it comes to gaming handhelds. The Xbox Ally and the Ally X are officially releasing. We don't have a pricing on the handhelds yet, which is kind of an odd thing because they're very close to be coming out. We don't have pre-orders for it. I have a feeling with the announcement that we did get just a few days ago about the Lenovo Legion Go 2, the pricing of those things may have an effect on the pricing of the Xbox Ally and the Ally X. So maybe they were waiting for that. And maybe this will be the week where we get the official announcement for what these things will cost. But the Ally X is where I think a lot of the spotlight is going to be on, just to see how good this thing does run games, as it will be the most powerful one out there. The Xbox operating system also will be massive, to see how sleek and how good that works, especially because they are going to be giving this out to other handhelds to utilize it on whatever you're using. If you're using a PC handheld, you should be able to download this Xbox OS, which is a great thing. I think this is going to make the experience significantly better, because I've never been a fan of using Windows 11 on the handhelds. Well, most people aren't, especially when you experience how cumbersome it can be at times. But one of the big games here that we are seeing running on the Xbox Ally X is doing very, very well. I think this bodes well for the future for these major AAA games, and for new games that do come out, how these handhelds will handle it, specifically the Ally X, where you will be getting a relatively premium experience here in your hands, getting these games running at high frames per second and looking very, very good. This is from a quote from Tom's Guide, analysis on the video from this article here about Doom the Dark Ages, saying the numbers I managed to get are insane. So for example, I ran Doom the Dark Ages on here, and with a 1080p at medium settings with FSR turned on, I'm able to get 83 frames per second on average, which is very good for a handheld. This is something that I'm excited to see, simply because when I had my other handhelds, you did really have to dumb down these games if you wanted just to have a smooth experience. And he says, moving on to Gears of War Reloaded, this was a set to a mixture of ultra and high settings, which for this game, not surprising, but the game does look phenomenal in 4K. They did add a bunch of stuff to it. And they say that was a rock solid 60 frames per second. These numbers are unheard of in gaming handhelds. So that's huge. That's a massive win here for the ROG Ally X. And you have to ask, with this type of performance, what will the price of this come in when they do end up announcing it? And then you have Carrie Golem here, who says the ROG Ally X for Doom the Dark Ages, 1080p upscaled at FSR 50%, 540p base resolution, ray tracing enabled, custom to low medium settings, FSR frame gen enabled, around 70 FPS in this scene, 26 watts total and around 18 watts TDP. But good news is we see the system self-balancing power. So he here is also showing off how Doom the Dark Ages is having some good performance here on the Ally X. And this is stuff I'm excited to see continuously going forward, because we will get a bunch of these comparisons. We will get a bunch of games tested on the Ally X, especially when this thing does come out. You'll see a lot of people testing out to see what you can get. But if you're getting like medium settings on a lot of these games, newer games, like Doom the Dark Ages is relatively new still, has latest technology in it and everything. You're getting medium settings and you're getting 70 to 80 FPS. To me, that's a massive win here for this handheld. How will that translate to other games? It will all also depend on the optimization of them, but I feel like the Ally X is going to be an absolute beast here in the gaming handheld space that most games out there right now, you're going to get very good results from. And then new games that do come out in the near future, you'll probably also get some great results from that as well. So the Ally X is huge. We don't know the prices. That is still the thing that's on top of everybody's head. How much are these going to cost? We've heard rumors that they're actually going back and thinking about maybe taking a bigger hit and subsidizing the price of these consoles more so that more people will get into them when they do launch. Because I could see the Ally X pushing $1,000 at this point. And one of the reasons I can see that simply is because we have gotten an announcement for the Lenovo Legion Go 2. Now, this thing is a beast. And I have to say, very intriguing, although extremely, extremely expensive and probably out of the price range of most people. But I do like what this handheld offers. And we also know that you're going to be able to install the Xbox OS on this thing, I believe in the upcoming spring. So it's going to be the same essentially as the Ally X, just with a Lenovo handheld with Xbox full integration on it if you do install that operating system. But here is what we're going to be getting with the Lenovo Legion Go 2. First of all, it starts at $1,100 USD. So it's a premium device for people who want the premium experience with nothing held back. They don't care about the portability as much. They don't care about just getting certain types of games to play on it. All they care about is getting the best possible gaming experience in your hands. That's what this one seems like it is marketed towards. Now, this will be coming to the market on October 31st. So I think that's about 2 weeks after the release of the ROG Ally and the ROG Ally X. And here is something that I love. 8.8-inch screen. To me, as I play more with handhelds, I don't really care as much about the portability as much as I care about the size of the screen. The bigger the screen, the better. An 8-inch screen, I'm all for. 8.8-inch screen, even better. Because a lot of the times with these handhelds, even now with the new ones that are coming out, even if the battery life is somewhat better, you're still plugging it into a wall jack at a certain point. So they are handheld PCs, they are portable, but the reality is you're not really thinking about these, taking them on road trips without having some sort of power source with you and stuff. It's more just for quick, got 2 hours, jump in and play. So a bigger screen to me is better. The other thing I love about this, it has an OLED panel with a 1920 by 1200 resolution. So right there, very, very premium off the bat, big OLED screen on this thing. And this is down from a 2560 by 600 on the original and 144 hertz refresh rate. But the other one was an LCD panel, was not OLED. So I'll take the OLED all day. And then here are the specs. So you have the Z2 and the Z2 Extreme. So they're both using that AMD Ryzen Z2 and Z2 Extreme APUs, which are very good chips. You're going to get a nice boost here from the Z1, but will it be worth the price upgrade? Some people would argue no. The graphics on here are the Radeon 780M and the Radeon 890M, 1 terabyte of storage versus the 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte of storage on the Extreme, 16 gigabytes of RAM or 32 gigabytes of RAM on the Z2, and then 32 gigabytes of RAM on the Z2 Extreme. You got that big OLED display, 74 watt hour battery on both of them. So that is the big thing here. The Z2, the regular Z2 is $1,100 or $1,200 USD. If you want to go all out on this thing for the Z2 Extreme, it is going to be $1,350 or $1,480, which to me is putting this in the category easily of just getting like a gaming PC or getting a very powerful gaming laptop. You can get some great gaming laptops. So it is pricing itself in an extremely premium price point, but for the people out there, you're going to be probably getting that best experience. What's interesting more than all of this is that this is coming out 2 weeks after the ROG and the ROG Ally X. You have to ask yourself the differences between those two. The ROG Ally X has, I believe, the more advanced chip with the AI in it, but they do have that smaller 7-inch display. And if we just take a look here at the direct comparisons between these two handhelds, you can see here that the AMD Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme, which to me is the better chip here on the Ally X versus the Lenovo Legion Go. They have the AMD Radeon graphics. Then they have 24 gigabytes of memory versus 32 gigabytes of memory. So there is a difference there between the Lenovo Legion Go 2, which has an up on that. Also, the storage is bigger on the Lenovo Legion Go 2, up to 2 terabytes versus the 1 terabytes. And then it's the panel, which to me is the big difference here. The 7-inch 1080p IPS touchscreen, 120 hertz versus the 8.8-inch OLED, 144 hertz, which it'll be a nicer experience. I think it'll be a relatively much nicer experience playing on that 8.8-inch OLED versus the IPS touchscreen here that the Ally X is offering. So I think those are the big differences. this one is coming in here at $1,300 what is the Ally X going to come in at? I can't see it really coming in at far less than $1,000. We're seeing the rumors that it being 900, and then more rumors them saying that they would want to subsidize more. If they can get it for like 850 or so, I think that's a massive win here for the Ally X, but we'll see. They're obviously waiting to announce the price, probably because they wanted to see what this was going to come out at, what the market reaction is going to be. But I would assume with it about a month away, they have to give us a price sooner rather than later. I wouldn't be shocked if we got a price this week or in the next week or so that they can get the pre-orders in for the Ally X. So that is the big difference. Two massive competitors here. I guess it all depends on what the pricing is. If the Ally X is significantly cheaper, like $500 cheaper, then yeah, they're not really in the same boat. You'll have people just saying they don't want to spend $1,500 on a handheld, and they'll go out there and just get the $899 or $850 Ally X. So interesting times in PC handhelds. These things are getting better. These things are going to be pushing games and playing them very, very good. And I think this is going to be a massive thing here for the future of the next generation, not only from these third-party PC handhelds, but we're hearing about PlayStation making their own. Got the Switch 2 that's out, and Switch 2, whether you're a fan of it or not, it's running big games like Star Wars Outlaws very, very well. So optimizing for that Nintendo Switch 2 looks like developers who know how to do it are going to give you some decent results. So the handhelds for the next gen are going to be the thing, I think, hardware-wise, to really focus on where people are deciding to pick up their games. Now let's talk some Starfield and machine games. A couple of things here. First of all, Bethesda Game Studio is teasing something new for Starfield, Terran Armada. They put this tweet out and they say it's celebrating 2 incredible years here for Starfield. They say thank you to everyone who has explored the settled system with us. We look forward to the adventures yet to come. And then they put out this video here with the Terran Armada tease of some sort. We don't really know, but they do say this, not exactly, but something like this. Global puts that out. They're just kind of speculating as to whether this would be the case. But we know that some new DLC is coming out. As I've said many times with Starfield, I love the game. I found the DLC to be not very good at all. So I hope whatever they do come out here with what's next, that they actually take their time and not just force out and rush out some DLC because they have to get it out there for some deadline or whatever. I'm sure they're going to be releasing this game on PS5 as well when the next DLC does come out. So they'll have to put a good impression on newcomers to the game. But I hope the DLC is a big improvement over the last one that they did put out. I will play it. I am looking forward to see how they improve upon it and what's next in this adventure for Starfield. Another series I love is Wolfenstein, and Machine Games here is hinting at a new Wolfenstein game. It's time. We need a new Wolfenstein game. I hope this is the next thing that they are working on and that we get something new here in the next little while. Probably, if not till the next generation, but at least maybe give us a look or a hint or a preview as to what the next Wolfenstein is going to be. This is the Wolfenstein reboot is a trilogy, says the director. This was in the Wolfenstein documentary. They hint at it saying, I think this is important to say because we have always seen this as a trilogy. So that journey for BJ, even during those first weeks at id, when we mapped out New Order, we still had the plan for at least that character. What will happen in the second one? What will happen in the third one? I think that's important to say because at least I hope that we're not done with Wolfenstein yet. We have a story to tell. As of right now, there's been no official announcement for Wolfenstein 3. Obviously, there's only 2 games out there, but they're saying, yeah, they have everything ready, like mapped out as to where they want to go with the third game itself. They just have to get the green light, I guess, to make it. I don't see why they wouldn't get it. I think this game would do very well if they did announce here Wolfenstein 3 at the next Xbox showcase or something, or whenever they're ready. I don't think they should announce it too far in advance, but this has got to be a game that Machine Games is working on, and I hope it is coming out in the next decade, I want to say. Who knows? Because, of course, Indiana Jones, they just put out the Order of the Giants, and that DLC is very good. So they've probably we're not really that close to giving us a Wolfenstein 3. All right, so Ubisoft, Nintendo Switch 2. Ubisoft, I feel like, does not get enough credit for how well their games scale on multiple different devices. And we're seeing this again here with the Nintendo Switch 2. Star Wars Outlaws just dropped, and I have it on the Nintendo Switch 2 on my second channel. I just did a quick view of it in handheld mode and in docked mode. And the game for the Switch 2, relative to the power of that console, runs very, very good. I'm most impressed by how it's steady and good it's running in handheld mode. You're not seeing major drops or anything. I would say the biggest issue is the pop-in at times when you're going through the open world, but very happy with the Nintendo Switch 2 port in. Star Wars Outlaws on Xbox is a beautiful looking game. So to get it running on the Switch 2 as well as they're getting it, I was extremely impressed. One of the things that's going to be annoying for Switch 2 owners and for physical game lovers is that the game cards, they're basically not even good enough to support the performance needed for these major AAA games that are going to be landing on this console. And Ubisoft talks about this, and with the recent release here of Star Wars Outlaws, they say this, that in a post on social media, audio architect Rob Banton talked about the Switch 2 game keycards and the studio's proprietary Snowdrop engine, saying Snowdrop relies heavily on disk streaming for its open world environments, and we found that the Switch 2 cards simply didn't give the performance we needed at the quality target we were going for. I don't recall the cost of the cards ever entering the discussion, probably because it was moot. Then adds that if the game was designed specifically for the Switch 2 from the ground up, it could be different. Says, as it was, we'd build a game around the SSDs of the initial target platforms, and then the Switch 2 came along a while later. In this case, I think our leadership made the right call. Now, he's saying if they built it from the ground up, it could be different, and it probably would be. I think anytime you're building a game, your lowest spec hardware is going to really determine what you're going to be able to do with that game, and probably the best way to build games if you're planning on putting it on everything. But the fact that the cards here are going to have trouble supporting the tech needed to get these games running where developers want them to need, I feel like is going to play out throughout this entire generation. We're going to see very little physical on the cartridge games here from the Nintendo Switch 2, simply because Nintendo just didn't provide a good enough option for this. It's unfortunate because the Switch 1, a lot of people loved the collectability of it. A lot of people loved the physical games of it, but the Switch 2 and Nintendo taking that step to really push the digital side of things, you know where this industry is heading. When Nintendo heads that way, it's over for anybody who's a huge fan of having games fully on the cartridges themselves. But if you have a Switch 2, I would check out Star Wars Outlaws if you are interested in the game, because the game does run very, very well. Ben Studio looks like they're hiring for a new multiplayer game, which is funny to say the least, because we know with PlayStation and their multiplayer games, their games as a service, how much they failed over those on the last number of years, all the games that they've canceled. People want a Days Gone 2, but apparently Ben is not getting the green light on that, and that game is just not good enough for PlayStation to give us a sequel to it. But this was found here by Tech4 Gamers, and that Ben Studio is hiring a creative director for a new project. They say experience with multiplayer game development and design. They say we are seeking an experienced and visionary creative director to help lead a project currently in development. This role is responsible for driving the decisions that set the creative vision, quality bar, and emotional tone of the game. In this capacity, you will serve to keep the team informed, aligned, motivated, inspired, and engaged. So it looks like another multiplayer game that they are trying to still get a win from, if this ends up being what that job posting sounds like it is. I do think PlayStation needs multiplayer. I do think they need games as a service. They need one of them to hit. Marathon right now doesn't even look like that's going to be their hit for them, although I think that's a major misstep if it isn't. With all the ones that they've canceled, we're still waiting to see if Fair Games is even going to make its way out. You would be naive to think that PlayStation is just going to completely abandon anything multiplayer here for the future, even though they've failed so many times and canceled a bunch of games. They need that extra revenue stream to support all of their games that they do create from the single player experience. And we'll see if Ben can do it, because a lot of people love Days Gone. It's one of those games, kind of a hidden gem, flew under the radar. People love it now. And if they were to bring out a Days Gone 2 and just did that, I feel like that game would do extremely well. So I'm confused why they wouldn't even consider that at all. And finally, Metal Gear Solid Delta. We have the initial sales numbers for it. Not shocking, but it has sold 1 million, they say here, on the day of its release. The Japanese developer and publisher Konami announced that Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater became a million seller on the day of its release. So instantly a massive game. Not shocked. There are people out there who just didn't want to play it because they just don't think it holds up to the original. Obviously, the whole Kojima thing and the Konami clash that they have turned off his mega fans, but still selling very, very well. But all in the video there. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.